everyone, this is Fun News, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and on the tabletop. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Dracula.
Hey now, everybody, how's it going?
Hello there, Drek. I've heard that the desert winds are blowing in from Barovia.
Yes,
To Barovia?
it's hot. Make it go away.
You want it to go away.
Go away.
I think it'll go away in about 9 months.
Yeah, probably. It's just, it usually doesn't get quite this hot this soon, so we usually have this little build up into it. But this year, it's just like, nope, it's gonna get hot because it can.
Because it can. No.
Stupid Mother Nature.
Oh, well. Let's head into some game news then, where we have an update 48.5, and we have quite a release here. And what is in here? Actually, not all that much.
Yeah, actually, no, this really wasn't that much. This came out last Wednesday, actually. So it came out after we recorded the last episode. So that's why we didn't talk about it then. We're going to talk about it now. The biggest thing to come out of update 48.5, of course, is the mount stable. Characters now have access to the mount stable. You can collect and summon mounts. That works similarly to how your cosmetic pets work. So you double click on a mount item, it will redeem that item and place that mount in your mount stable. The mount stable is a new tab of the inventory menu, and it contains all the mounts that you have redeemed on the server, regardless of which character redeemed them, like it does with the cosmetic pets. So if you'd like to summon a mount, you simply either double click on the desired mount from within the mount stable, or you can drag its icon onto your hotbar and click it from there. So if you have one particular mount that you like to use all the time, you don't have to keep going into your mount stable to get to it. You could just drag it to your hotbar and you can have it from there as well.
Oh, this means then that if you manage to get one of those mounts from the Borderlands and you liked using it, you don't have to get it from all your characters, just on one character then?
That's exactly what this means. Any server or any character on that server will have access to all of the mounts that you have added to your mount stable, which is amazing. Then elsewhere in this patch, in the DDO store, the Keep on the Borderlands bonus item bundle now grants you a medium ingredients bag instead of the small wondrous mount bag, because the wondrous mount bag is worthless now. This is going to be delivered upon logging in to all of those who had previously purchased that bundle.
Okay, answers that question.
So if you got the bundle, next time you log in, which you probably already have this because you've probably already done this since this patch, but if not, surprise, you're going to get a medium ingredients bag in place of that small wondrous mount bag.
Oh, that might help some of my characters who keep on getting all these ingredients.
There you go. Yeah, if you don't already have some ingredients bags, you now have a medium bag. Congratulations.
I think most of my characters have a tiny one.
Oh, yeah. See, I always buy one from the store. I have like the big one from the store, but I can see if you have a tiny one, that's going to fill up pretty quick if you collect all the ingredients.
Yeah.
Also, in the patch, some enhancements. The half-elf warlock dilettante can no longer sometimes erroneously kill allies.
What?
That's handy. That's handy because, oops. Sorry.
How did that happen?
I don't know, but that's pretty freaking funny, actually, is what that is. The offhand versatility's orbs / rune arm effect is now changed to on Vorpal Strike. With a single weapon fighting for the next 5 seconds, all your spells will automatically crit, which that's kind of awesome. Then they fixed a couple typos in the title of the Sorcerer Trainer in the Keep on the Borderlands. That has been fixed. Hardcore Season 3 leaderboards are now available for viewing in the Hall of Heroes, and the Hardcore Season 3 vendor has been replaced with XIX. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Kix? XIX? Whatever.
Six.
Sure, whatever. He is the Hardcore 4 Season vendor, so he is now there. And that was it for that patch. So not much. Mount stable is the big thing, which is pretty awesome. I'm excited about that.
But I heard that there is another patch looming. I would presume that this is going to be another small one because it has a even lower dot number.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty tiny. This is going to be tomorrow. So if you're listening to this live, there's going to be downtime tomorrow, and that downtime is going to last from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, April the 8th. If you're listening to this when it's released, which is probably going to be tomorrow, you're probably past this. Again, timey-wimey. You're a time traveler. It's all confusing. But just note, you may have some downtime going on as you're listening to this because this comes out before the downtime. Again, time, it's confusing. Update 48.5.1. This is our release notes. The Mimic Festival vendor is now available on the Hardcore League server. The option to apply Mimic Repellent is not available on the Hardcore League server, for the record. Yeah, that's the big thing about Hardcore this year is chests can be mimics. So every time you open a chest on the Hardcore, you might die. Fun. Some NPC texts have been corrected. The Roman numeral IV has been removed from the reward mount due to a mirroring issue.
A mirroring issue?
So apparently, on the reward mount on Hardcore, the IV look like VI, is how I'm reading that. I guess.
Well, okay, so it sounded like it was season 6 instead of season 4.
Yeah, because like if it would be a mirroring issue, IV would turn into VI. So again, confusing. Okay, the electric floors in some quest, like Spies in the House, are going to do a little less damage. Alchemal Stone no longer uses incorrect item scaling. It is now bound to character like all other veteran status items. And your Minor Slayer count boost no longer counts down while you're in dungeons. That's cool because I always wondered about that. Because as far as I know, Slayer counts don't count in dungeons. So I never could understand why the Slayer count boost potions counted down when you were in a dungeon. So that's awesome. I like that fix. So that's it. That's our patch for tomorrow. Just a little teeny tiny patch. Little add-on to the last patch, as it were.
Yeah, concerning patches, that is not it, because apparently they are also having a preview number 2 for Lamannia for update 49, and I heard that there's something about bows in here.
Yeah, this again is the second preview on Lamannia. If you listen to last week's episode, we talked about Lamannia in depth, so refer to that episode, but keep in mind, some of that information in last week's episode is now incorrect because they have changed a little bit of stuff and they're testing it out on Lamannia, which is what Lamannia is there for. Preview number 2 started on April the 6th and it's going to run till April the 8th. So once again, sometimes in the afternoon of Thursday, April the 8th. So if you're listening to this live, you have until tomorrow. If it's tomorrow, time travel, you probably missed it. It's timey-wimey all over again. It hurts my head to try to think about the various times that people could listen to this podcast. But anyway, yes, 49, update 49, preview 2, currently on Lamannia. Some of the new things that are added. The Vistani Knife Fighter, Rapid Strike, and Rapid Throw now have their double strike bonus properly typed as morale. Uncanny Dodge feats no longer cause a pause in auto attack. Offhand versatility now functions with orbs. And the Celestial Tutelage in ASMR now works to prereq the Feydark Illusionist. Okay. Over in some item changes. And keep in mind, this is just on Lamannia only. This build probably is going to change. Keep that in mind as well. I should have said that before I started talking about this, but just keep in mind, subject to change. This is only on the new Lamannia build. Shield Breaker now provides its Sunder bonuses. The Fey Twisted raid items are now purchasable. That's a hard word to say. With raid runes. And the named loot from the Lord March Plaza quest, Eyes of Stone, Assaults on Summerfield, etc., etc., has been slightly updated to match the modern scaling effects standards. They have not been redesigned, but have instead had effects that were basic static stat bonuses moved over to a modern scaling effects on the Kenneth Crafting eye level scale, our standard. This only will apply to anything newly created of those items. So if you have old items, they are still going to be the old items. If you run that quest chain, you get the rewards. They will be updated to the new scaling effects. And then they are available to preview via the Loot Guy on Lamannia. Of course, Loot Guy is not available on live servers. So when this goes live, there'll be no loot guide that you can test these out. But if you actually want to see these, you can hop on Lamannia and check it out via the loot guy.
You can always run the quest to see. And maybe
well, that's true. I mean, too, or just go say, hey, give me those things, which is probably a little easier than running the quest, but to each their own. Some quest work was done. You can now break the root walls in combating corruption with ranged attacks. Hallelujah. I love that change that they made a long time ago. Apparently there was a couple quests that forgot you could do that. That is now updated. And then mounts should no longer be summonable in quest. They weren't before. This just adds a nice little error message when you try to do it. So apparently on the Lamannia you can bring a mount into a quest, which would kind of be cool, actually. Maybe. Depends. You could really troll people that way, but anyway. And some appearance fixes have been made to some of you NPCs who have recently stopped displaying correctly, most notably the masterminds of Sharn villains.
Mm-hmm.
So
now,
is.
Yeah. Now, reading some of these other notes, the ones that you discussed apparently last week.
Yes.
I'm just saying, they decided to finally add longbows to the grotto quest rewards.
Yeah. About freaking time, like I said last week, too. Yeah. On the rare occasion that I did do the grotto, that annoyed the hell out of me. You couldn't get along. All they gave me was a short bow. I'm like, what? No. Give me a longbow. Which that kind of ties in with the bow changes, I think. But yeah, so cool. So yeah, once this goes live, you can actually get a longbow. But, I don't really ever run Grotto.
You don't do the Grotto
but, often. I was going to say, I very, very, very rarely do I run Grotto. But anyway, if I do, you darn sure I'm going to get a longbow, though. So with this change, they also have taken a look at the bow changes that we talked about last week that were on Lamannia Preview 1. They have updated some of those. Only going to be talking about what has changed. Again, listen to last week's episode if you want an in-depth look at what the bow changes are going to be. The changes on Update 2, which is currently on Lamannia as we speak, is the human male/female and tiefling male/female have been adjusted their animations a little bit. So their animations have changed from the first preview. The +1 critical multiplier on a roll of 1920 for bows on point blank shot has been replaced with a +1 critical threat range for bows. I kind of like that change, actually. I'm digging that. Many shot is now a ranged bow attack. Expend 1 charge to fire 3 arrows in a quick succession. You have a +1 critical threat range and critical multiplier with these shots. Each of these shots can double shot as well. It's got a 2-second cooldown, and the feat will give you 3 charges. You gain 1 charge every 12 seconds. You don't use many shot. Many shot is going to require a longbow or a short bow to use, and the passive on that is you gain double shot equal to 1.5 times your base attack bonus with a longbow or a short bow. Also, they adjusted many shots priority so it no longer interrupts your attack if you invoke it on a cooldown. The passive ranged power with bows from Rapid Shot is now going to be 1.5 times your basic attack bonus. Previously on the last build, it was 1.0. So they upped it just a smidge. The +1 critical threat range for bows on combat archery has been replaced with a +1 critical multiplier. Also fixed an issue where the scaling double shot and ranged power bonuses from Rapid Shot and Many Shot were not updating when your basic attack bonus updated. Several bows that were missing dexterity to damage is fixed. 10,000 stars feat no longer works with bows. It now only applies its effects when you're using a shuriken. In the Ranger Deepwood Stalker tree, Heavy Draw's crit multiplier should now stay on the player more consistently. And the Paladin Knight of the Chalice, the Ranged Exalted Smite should now list its proper critical bonus. So that's the changes from Update 1 to Update 2 for the upcoming bow changes. But wait, there's more.
More?
They also are looking at some changes that is focused on boosting the game performance. They made some of these changes last time, and they have updated some of these as well. What is going to change? Again, all this subject to change on Lamannia only, but double strike and double shot is no longer going to apply a full subsequent attack as part of your attack chain. Instead, when a player double strikes or double shots, for brevity, we'll call this a multi-hit from now on. Just remember that this applies for all melee and ranged attacks. The game will instead multiply the base amount of damage dealt, first number, and sneak attack by the amount of multi-hits generated. That means that a player who deals an average of 100 damage on their first hit will now deal 200 or 300, or however many multi-hits multiplied their base damage when the multi-hit goes off. So we talked about this last week, how they're kind of tweaking the attack animations and stuff like that to try to help server performance. This is part of that. So this way you're not going to keep attacking. You're going to attack once, but then you're going to still get all the bonuses and everything that you would have. So that makes sense. Abilities that apply additional range projectiles, the Shuriken expertise and the advanced ninja training, for example, no longer apply multiple hits on those projectiles. Instead, just if they have been a pure double shot, they will simply be additional chances to multi-hit. So kind of the same thing. A player's 100% effective double strike cap now applies in the system. Offhand strikes will also be a separate hit and will roll their own damage from their own weapon and can still double strike. However, they have removed the stat offhand double strike from the game. Your offhand now double strikes at 50% of the double strike of your main hand. This means that if you have a 50% chance to produce an offhand strike and a 100% double strike, your offhand will hit 50% of the time for 50% double strike. So a 50% chance to deal double damage. Abilities and enhancements that use to provide double strike will no longer do so. Shield still cannot double strike, so you can't bash people twice with your shield. And strike through attacks still proc their own double strike roll individually per target struck. And Coco Mojoba says the main reasoning behind these changes, letting repeaters and offhand strikes still proc rather than fully condensing it, is that they want to keep the damage number appropriate to the amount of animations that a player actually is producing. He did say a major effect of this change is that you will see much spikier damage across the board. The multi-hit calculation takes the original roll into account when determining damage, which means that you'll see a much higher highs and much lower lows. Attacks that crit will multiply that increased damage so that you will see much higher numbers on those particular attacks. Attacks that miss, of course, will deal no damage as before, but rather than a multi-hit giving a chance for a second strike to deal damage, they will deal no damage just as the original strike missed. And then he does go on to end this with some crunchy details. So if you're curious as to what's actually happening when a player attacks, as I know some of us might be, what happens when we actually attack? Currently, how that works is a player double strikes or double shots. They actually handle those type of attacks through a very, very different flow. Both melee and missile attacks use something that we call a detect attack to deal the regular damage, but how they get there is very different. Right now, a player double strikes when their attack scripts use their double strike stat to determine if they fire off another detect attack. A player double shots when the missile attacker code gets to the part of the code where we determine how many missiles are a part of the projectile. From there, the scripts use the number of missiles to determine how many times they used a detect attack. But now, when a player attacks from the detect attack callback or elsewhere, the determination to double strike and double shot is made within the single attack call. The appropriate stats are queried, even the weird ones like the shrunken multi-throw feat, and the appropriate adjustments to the chances are made, such as the double shot penalty from a repeater or dual crossbow. From there, they determine how many extra attacks you have rolled, and if you have any bonus attacks, they will multiply the damage you would deal by that amount. In summary, he says the end result of this change should be improved gameplay on the performance end. Furthermore, the numbers you will see while dealing damage will more accurately reflect what's happening in the moment, and you should be able to make calculations much more quickly. We hope that you will give this a solid try on Lamannia, and we look forward to your feedback, both on the usability of the change and the change to the performance therein.
That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. So there you go. So some updates. As we talked about last week, they're working on animation changes. They're working on bow changes, working on some of these attack things to try to make the servers run a little better, which is always a good thing. It's a lot of changes, but we'll see what ends up in the final build. Remember, everything we talked about only on Lamannia, so you don't have to worry about any of this on live right now. Only on Lamannia, so we'll see what actually ends up when they throw everything against the wall and it hits the live servers.
Let's then head into our site news where we look at what's coming in from the dungeon. Where I'm going to ask you the question, when is a miniature not a miniature?
When it is this Tiamat miniature. Because, yes, you can't call this a miniature. But, oh my God, this is amazing. I want this so bad. This is this is amazing.
Where are you going to put it?
Yeah, that's the other question. Yes, this is called D&D Icons of the Realms Miniatures Gargantuan Tiamat. And when they say gargantuan, they mean it. Because this thing is 14.6 inches tall and 16.8 inches wide. And Tiamat has a wingspan of over 28 inches. So that's a scary 5-headed dragon. While you really want to freak your players out, you drop that down to the table and say, roll for initiative. And then your players are like, oh, hell no.
It says, well, let's face it. If you're going to spend $400 on a miniature, you better find a way to get it into the
True,
game.
exactly. And It was funny. I didn't actually include this in the article, but in the press release that WizKid said, they stressed the fact that this is not just a statue. This is a miniature. They want people to play with this. It's not just a showpiece, but it's a showpiece because it's completely painted. It looks freaking amazing. It's 14.6 inches tall, 16.8 inches wide, and a 28-inch wingspan on Tiamat's wings, which is insane, with that insane jaw-dropping $399.99 price tag as well.
Yes.
So if you got $400 just burning a hole in your pocket and you don't know what to do with and you want to buy me something, go pre-order it now and send it to me. I'll give you my address. Just send an email to drac@ddoplayers.com and I'll give you my address if you want to send me this. Just saying.
Yes, I could just imagine. Yeah, I'm sure the undemmables are not going to do that because they're afraid of seeing him
Probably.
down.
Probably. I was about to say, ooh, there you go. They could like pool their money. There's like 3 of them, sometimes 4. So there you go. See?
Except then they'll have to face it. Yes.
Exactly.
Let's go and see what's on the tabletop. Where everyone's favorite anti-hero, Deadpool, is heading for the tabletop in Unmatched.
Yay, more Unmatched, and yay, Deadpool. Deadpool is amazing, of course. Everybody loves Deadpool. Everybody wants to play Deadpool. So now you can in Unmatched. You can have Deadpool going against Sherlock Holmes, or Deadpool going against Robin Hood, or Deadpool going against Buffy, or any of the other Unmatched sets that are available, because this is a standalone expansion for the Unmatched game. It's going to come with your miniature of Deadpool, of course, the health dial, and 31 cards. Deadpool, of course, is a single hero expansion, as I said, so that means you can swap it in and out in the Unmatched system, so you can use it with any of the other Unmatched systems that you have. So you can have Deadpool face anyone you would like. This is for pre-order now, shipping this July, so not too long of a wait for Unmatched Deadpool. Which I'll have to get this because I've got Cobble and Fog Unmatched, and the Buffy Unmatched, and one other one. Maybe it's the Robin Hood I have. I can't remember. So I'll have to get this one too. Unmatched is such a fun game.
Then let's head into our weekend gaming. Where we'll see if your gameplay has been unmatched.
And not so much.
Oh.
Again, as you could tell with how weird the podcast has been the last couple of weeks. Yeah. So not much time to game. Did get a little gaming in. One of my Kickstarters that I backed last year, I think it was last year, was Sea of Legends. That came, opened that up, and I was like, nah, screw this. This is more overwhelming than Gloomhaven is. There's a lot. It was a big box, and there's a lot. There's a lot in those boxes. So yeah, I opened the shrink, took a look at it, and was like, nah, we'll do this later. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to playing that though. But yeah, there's a lot to that game. So the only really gaming I did is in the video game realm, and that was 7 Days to Die. Patrick from DDO Cast had the insane idea that he wanted to create a brand new 7 Days to Die game, set it on the hardest difficulty, which is basically insane, is the best way to describe this difficulty. It's super hard. The zombies hit super hard, and you barely do any damage to them. So to kill a zombie takes forever. Even after you get good weapons and you spend some of your skill points, it still takes forever to kill a zombie. And they can pretty much whack you out in 3-4 hits maybe. So yeah, they do a lot of damage. So we just started that, and that's Patrick, one of his friends, Rent, Myth, and Sabajade, and myself. So we're just going to see how far we get. We're on day 3, I think. Day 4 or something like that. So we haven't had a horde yet. We have a quote-unquote base that we're using. Don't think it's going to be the first horde base, though, because it's a little big. But we like where we're at, and that's kind of like the base where we're living right now. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to do that game like every other week or every couple weeks. So we're just going to take our time. It's just for fun because I know I have never played on the hardest difficulty, and I don't know. I think Patrick probably has before, but I don't know about Myth or Saba or Rent if they've ever played on the hardest difficulty. So this is like my first time playing on that difficulty, and it's crazy. It's pretty hard, but it's fun. Other than that, it's really about it. I'm trying to think if I did anything else that I'm forgetting, and pretty much no. So how about you? Looks like you did a lot, as you always do.
Let's start with Minecraft, where I decided that I was not going to run this month's MHC. This month's MHC for the Minecraft Hardcore Challenge was to prepare a village, generate a raid, and become hero of the village by defending the village against a raid. And I know there's absolutely no way in the world I was going to do that.
I wondered when I seen that I'm like, ooh, is Pineleaf going to do this one? Oh.
So I decided I was not going to try to do this. So instead, what I decided to do is that I am doing a short series that I'm calling the World of the MHC, where I explore the world of the MHC under the snapshots to see what this world is like. And the reason why I decided to do this is because in the previous MHC after I died...
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up, but go ahead and talk, and then I'm going to bring that up.
Yeah, I brought up I decided to run I had two more episode slots left, so I decided to see what it looked like in the 1.17 seed. And it turned out that the ravines that were present in the run, every single one of them was not present in there because they changed cave generation in there. And apparently it changed whatever happens to ravines and the like. So none of those ravines existed in that particular one. So I decided, how much changed for this MHC? So I ran that, and so far I'm finding that the above ground stuff, which is what's emphasized for this particular MHC, is all that stuff is there. The village is there, the forest is there, a lone tree that was talked about was there. The outpost that guaranteed to kill me, because even though I wasn't running this under MHC rules, that I did run into those insane pillagers who killed me. So if that were in the MHC, I would have died very, very quickly if I were running that under MHC rules. And then after that, I headed underground so I could start exploring what the underground is like, because that is completely different under the snapshots. Since 1.17 is all about changing what's underground.
Oh, okay.
So I'm taking a look at what's underground and what changes there are in there.
And speaking of you dying, I watched that episode. That was the saddest thing I have ever watched in my life, because the tone in your voice was devastating when you died. You could hear the realization in your mind that it was like, oh yeah, that just happened. I just died. It was like, yeah, because Lessa actually sent me a text and she's like, did you see that new video? And I'm like, oh no, let me go watch. And then we were like texting back and forth, and we were like, oh my God, this is so sad. Because it was just like your reaction was classic Pineleaf, because you were like working through it logically in your mind, that you were like, okay, this is over. I just died. It was super sad.
I just died, and what happened?
It was super sad though. It was crazy sad. So I highly recommend you go watch that video just to see Pineleaf's reaction. It's just like, oh,
just right there when I get killed.
Yeah, it was great.
Skip to episode.
I mean, not that I took pleasure in you dying, but it was like it was just like it was a good episode that sucked you in, because it was just like, dude, seriously, just your tone of voice. Yeah, I could just, because as I podcasted with you enough and played games with you enough, I kind of know how you think, and I know like the mind of Pineleaf, and it was just like I could see you rationalizing this.
Screening?
Well, sometimes it does, but yeah.
Yes. That was strange is that when Lessa told me that she's running this month's MHC with her daughter.
Yes, and I am glad you talked about that because I was going to talk about that and I couldn't figure out where to put it in the show. But I'm going to link that video playlist in the show notes. Go watch it. It's amazing. Lessa and her daughter are amazing. Her daughter is a chip off the old block, as it were. So
Sounds like it.
if you enjoy Lessa's playstyle, you gotta love her daughter's playstyle too. I'm just saying. So I will link that in the show notes. Go watch Lessa and her daughter play this Minecraft hardcore because it's amazeballs.
Yeah. What I'm amazed though is that I've seen 2 players of this month's MHC go to that village already, and neither one of them has seen a single pillager yet, despite the fact that you've got that pillager outpost nearby. When I went there, now fortunately it wasn't part of an official run, so it didn't matter all that much. When I went there, the place was crawling with pillagers all over the place. They were shooting villagers, they were shooting at me, and the only thing that made me so I wasn't running away was frustration is the fact that I managed to click on a bed before I got killed. So that was
RNG, finally. RNG.
yeah, RNG. The RNG definitely didn't like me on that one because the place was. I don't know if that's a 1.17 versus 1.16 thing, or if it was just RNG luck, or it says, "Oh, this is Pine Leaf. We must really go after him." That was crazy. All right. But anyways, that's what I was doing in Minecraft. In Civ 6, I was playing a couple of rounds with the LPN group. And so we were playing with that. And I decided to play Portugal, which is the newest Civ that was released. And Portugal is designed to be a maritime Civ. So I am just concentrating, going all out, all over the place. I've got ships going out I've got twice as many ships as anyone. Everything's going around there, far flung, trading with some of the other players and really setting up this sea empire. And meanwhile, Terry Adwin is talking about the troubles that she's having with England, has decided to go to war with England. And I said, okay, England's a little bit away. Maybe I could send a couple of ships up there just in case they're needed in there. And about halfway through this war, I suddenly realized that England at some point built a city right next to mine. And I thought, when did they do that? I was so concentrating on all this vast sea empire I had, I didn't realize that England was slowly encroaching on me and at some point built a city right next to me. So now I am currently trying to do a land war against England when I've got so few land troops in my inventory. Because all I built were ships. But anyway.
Well, of course. I mean, if you're concentrating on sea, yeah. I mean, you would.
Yeah. Now, I heard one of the other players who was playing a game that I wasn't in, decided to play Portugal without realizing that they had chosen a Pangea layout map for their particular game and wound up with their starting location being pretty far from the water. So, okay. Note to self: never play Portugal on a Pangea map. You don't want to be landlocked when you're playing Portugal. For Elder Scrolls Online, I had created about a month ago or something like this a solo warden, and I'm running this solo warden. And one of the reasons I did this way was so that I could run the current tutorial because they changed the tutorial every time they have a major release. I wanted to make sure that I did the Greymore tutorial before that happened. So I created this warning that so this warden just this week finally reached level 15, and I had taken just about every single prologue quest there is. So I have my quest log was really getting filled. I almost completely filled my quest log taking all these prologue quests. That's how many prologue quests I took on this thing. So I went a little bit overboard on that. But I decided finally let's start working on toning down this one. So the first thing I did is I ran the Blackwood prologue. So because they just released the Blackwood prologue last week. So I ran the Blackwood prologue to see what's coming up on there. And I don't know, I guess you didn't have a chance to run that yet.
I have not, no.
Right. But it looks like oh boy, how about that? We get to go to Oblivion. So that's going to be quite a storyline. But one of the things I noticed on these, when they first release their prologues, I guess there are a couple of glitches on how they get you to the prologue. Because it says, go to the point marked on your map. I hope they improve that before they get to the final release. I had a lot of trouble finding it, especially with the map trying to point me way, way in the opposite direction from where it actually is, because Blackwood is not yet properly marked on the map on how they give you directions or anything like that. So that was a real pain to go through, but I eventually was able to find it and run the prologue, and it was quite an interesting prologue we have in there. So we have quite a bit coming up in there. But I think you and I still need to get through Graymore before we worry about that as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and after I finished Blackwood, I headed into the Covenant starter area, Stros Makai, because that's one of the quest lines I accidentally picked up when I was picking up prologues all over the place. So I picked that up, and I'm running through that, and I am just going to try to, in the next couple of weeks, see how many of these prologues I could pick up that I could get rid of, dispense with, and no longer have to worry about, so that I have room in my quest log, because I think I have only 2, maybe 1 free quest slot available at the moment because of all those prologues I picked up.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Then in tabletop, last week I received my copy of the newly released, or I should say re-released, because this is a new edition of Commands and Colors Samurai Battles. The old version was put out by a Russian plastics company.
Okay.
So of course they did it with miniatures, of course, being a plastics company. And they're not the only plastics company to put out a Commands and Colors one, because there are actually 2 that are put out by a Plastic Soldier company, who also put out the Great War and Red Alert. Anyway, the new edition is being put out by GMT, who prefers to use these in wooden blocks. And I finally got it last week, and since last week I've played through 10 scenarios. So I played through the first 10 scenarios in there, and learning a little bit about Japanese history and their history with warfare that they've had in there, and the progress which they're making, because I've done some of the early ones in there, and then in the last couple of scenarios I did, firearms suddenly appear into the game, because that's around the year which the Japanese started purchasing arquebuses from Portugal. So we're seeing what we have in the battles, learning a little bit more on that matter, and I had a lot of fun with that one. And then finally I played a round of Role Player, where I was playing a game involving the Monsters and Minions update in there, and I think I had a reasonably good run on that one, because I got 33 points on there, which is a reasonably good run, I think, for a Role Player run. In this one, I actually managed to get a whole bunch of scrolls. I almost never go for scrolls on time, usually going for traits and all this stuff. So in this one, I managed to get only 1 trait in the entire thing, and I got 5 scrolls. So I definitely went on a different strategy than I normally do on this particular Role Player run. And that's it for my weekend gaming. We currently have 16 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to help support DDO players, you can go to the donations page. You can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. Your money would be used for our podcast hosting, website hosting, and to pay for our live shows. If you would like to just donate without using Patreon, you could contact Drek at ddoplayers.com. And we actually have a featured comment this week from Lessa. What else is Lessa saying?
She commented on the last week's episode. She said, I really enjoyed the vaccine talk in here. I didn't know about the airlines. It does make sense. Not everyone feels safe getting vaccinated. I have a friend who has had a severe reaction to vaccines in the past and is afraid to take it. Not everyone who isn't taking it is anti-vaccine. Some of them really want to do it, they just feel like they can't. Gen Con needs to be smart about this year. They can pull it off, I'm sure. So if anyone is willing to go the extra mile, it's gamers. Mm-hmm. And I agree, 100%.
And I noticed that Corey Olson, the token professor, he is trying his best to have a live Mythmoot this year. We'll see how well he succeeds in that.
It's going to be interesting to see how well a lot of these conventions that are going to try to do it actually go. So we'll see. Only time will tell.
Yeah, if you tend to have bad reactions to vaccines, that's a tricky one, especially since a one that has 2 doses in it, since the second dose is, from what I heard, can be a real kicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what everybody I know that has got it said. The person's not bad. It's that second one that throws you for a loop. So
yeah, it throws you for a loop. So you have to be prepared that you may get a may get some side effects. I know there's one person who's with us on the other podcast, and she's a teacher. She's already had both doses, and it said you'll start getting. If you have side effects, you'll get them between 1 to 72 hours afterwards. And hers kicked in right at 71. She almost made it to the line.
Nice. Well, I will know in 10 days. I get my first shot in 10 days. So we'll see how the first one goes. And then I don't know how long I have to wait for the second. But I'm kind of scared, actually. But we'll see how it goes.
We will see how that goes.
Because I decided, I'm going to go to Gen Con, going to cover Gen Con. I probably want to get this vaccine because, as I talked about on the past couple episodes of the podcast, Gen Con plague is bad enough. So you add Gen Con plague on top of COVID, yeah, shoot me in the arm right now.
All right. Well, and if you have a bad reaction to the first dose, it means that you've had it and didn't know it.
Which, again, I think we've talked about on the podcast. I'm pretty sure I had it before it was quote unquote here. Because I don't know if you remember, I was super sick in December of 2019 into January of 2020. I was super, super sick. I think we actually even didn't have a podcast episode maybe 1 or 2 weeks because I was sick for like 3 weeks, like super sick. Went to the doctor like 4 times. Doctor's like, no idea what this is.
No one ever heard of COVID then. Yes.
Yeah. He's like, you don't have the flu. You don't have strep throat. You don't have this. You don't have that. You have some type of respiratory infection that I don't know what it is. And then it was like 2 weeks after that, 3 weeks after that, you started hearing this, China has this new respiratory illness that's going around. And then all of a sudden it was here, but it was never here when I had it, but I'm pretty sure that's what I had. Yeah. So
yeah, they later learned that there was probably a round of it under the.
Oh yeah. I can almost 100% guarantee you I had that before it was cool to have it, as the kids are saying these days.
Yeah, so you were a trend setter.
I was a trend setter. I had COVID before it was cool.
If you have side effects to the first shot, you definitely were a trend setter.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah, I kind of want to wait for that too to see what happens. Because I had heard that they said if you do have any side effects, that means you have had it before. And I'm like, I'm almost positive I had it before anybody knew what it was. But we'll see.
Yeah, yes. Then we did not have any emails this week, but if you'd like to send us one, you can send it to podcast@ddoplayers.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the Players Alliance, at Players Ally, DDO Players at DDO Players, Dracula at Dracula_72, and Piney Pet Piney Needles. The Players Alliance has 2 shows on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. UC Central Time. We have DDO Players News, and on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. UC Central Time, we have Loja Players News. You can join us for our live show at ddoplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight, and this is Piney Needles reminding you to quest responsibly.